Oh, hey, yeah, yeah. It's Hidden Mark with Harry and Mark. Yeah, I'm uh, I'm your co-host Mark. This is my shit heel Harry, uh,
Hello.
who I was ready to podcast with at 9:30, but guess who wanted to go get some food? And I didn't make a big deal about it before, but I'm making a big deal about it on the YouTubes, on the podcast. You should be ashamed of yourself. How dare you sustain your own needs,
Sorry.
prick? Hey, it's okay, man. It's all good. I don't harbor any animosity on hitting the mark with Harry and Mark because we're two idiots who talk about things we have no idea what we're talking about. Because I'm the co host, Mark, and I am aided by my wonderful, quiet, yet sensual co host, Harry the Bear.
Hello.
We hope you had a wonderful week, folks. We sure as hell had an average one. That didn't sound all that interesting. We had a great one. Isn't that right, Harry?
Yeah, I'd go with the later one. Yeah, I'm pretty average.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, fuck. All right. Well, welcome to the average show with
mm,
average Mark and his average co-host, Harry the Bear. I like that. I like that a little more. It really
mm,
sets
mm.
the expectation, right? Anyway,
Yes.
how was your week?
My week has been pretty average. But
Nice.
I will say work has been picking up. A little busy.
Yeah?
But
Oh.
yeah. Other than that though, pretty average. Nothing crazy. Didn't do anything spontaneous during the weekend, so
You got to work on that, man. You got to do like something
yeah.
spontaneous like once a half hour.
But I do have a planned trip to the city next week.
Ooh, do tell.
Oh, just going to the city. Probably gonna hit up Japantown, and then maybe see a screening of Dune.
Oh, you don't say.
Oh, I do.
So, I think this is weird because we're reusing the same joke. I'm also going to this event.
No way.
Huh. Yeah, way. Oh, dude. Yeah, folks. We're gonna in a non-official capacity go to a semi-screening of Dune. Um Harry knows that I go gaga for this franchise or lack of. And I invited this son of a bitch to this event, where essentially they're going to be doing a little bit of behind the scenes stuff and previewing some of the soundtracks before we get to the new trailer. All of this traveling, probably a toll for what amounts to probably a half hour of information, maybe even less. But you know what? It's worth it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can move aside anything that's important to anyone in favor of the things that I want,
Makes sense.
because it's me. Yes. So if anyone's interested in these events, wherever you are in the good old US of A, just go to Dune movie thingy, whatever, and they'll typically offer information about the screening. Um, I've been, as you know, fairly disappointed with the release marketing for this movie. So
mm-hmm.
I'm a little jonesing for some sugar in my veins. Um, I am not particularly of the mind that if I go and see all this information, it's going to spoil it for me. I already know about the book. I already know that they're going to try to split it into two movies. Um, Warner Brothers has kind of shot itself in the foot with possibly making the second one because that's what Denis Villeneuve wants to do. Um, so I want to see this mainly to get an idea of more of a picture of the art style of uh any director choice or director's choices, cinematography, music. The music I'm most interested in, I think, out of everything. I do love the minimalist, like dark, muted colors vibe, but I think the music has always been something that I've been fairly interested in, especially with the last trailer that has like some weird remixed uh song. I don't know. Very interesting. Anywho, if you're ever interested, Go out, check it. It's next week. They're playing in very select theaters all across the United States. So go ahead. It's free tickets, but they're first come, first serve. So yeah, and then once we're done with that, we'll probably come back next week and we'll discuss under penalty of death what we saw.
Ooh.
Harry,
Yeah.
I apologize. You continue with your story.
Um, that was it. That was my week.
Man, Jesus. Okay, I guess I'll just have to talk about me. It's so hard sometimes. So, my wonderful friend. Um, my girlfriend and I have been having like slopes in like how our schedules kind of collide. I'll get home, I'll do dinner, she'll like hang out, she'll do dinner or whatever, and so on. But pretty much every night, we always kind of retire into my room or hers, and we'll watch something. And lately, I've been getting into the app Tubi or Tubi or whatever. Um, it's a free streaming service. They do fucking ads and whatnot. I don't really give a shit about the app, but this isn't like uh, a peddling of an app. What I'm
Mhm.
interested in as part of my week is the fact that they play so many like B and C and D level movies. Oh, it's so good. I was talking to Harry earlier this week about there's a movie called like The Evil Below, and it's the second movie, and I didn't even know that there was a first one of a post-apocalyptic world that has gargoyles in it. It's so good. Like it's awful, but it's so good. And then there's Forbidden Planet, which is
Mm.
so the Evil Below or whatever it is, or the Evil Above is like an early '90s like awful movie. And then Forbidden Planet is another awful movie. It kind of takes the that cheap '80s aesthetic that everyone tried to copy from Alien after it came out.
Yeah.
Um, and then add like its weird like tropey kind of thing to it in its own way. Um, I haven't even scratched the fucking surface. Like it's got sword and sorcery in there somewhere. They have one of my favorite fucking sword and sorceries. They have the Barbarian and the Sorceress with David Carradine, which you and
Oh.
I fucking saw.
Yeah.
Um, but it has a whole bunch of really awful '80s and '70s and '90s movies in there, like Deathstalker and 2 and 3 and all that.
Oh, so good.
I know. And they're all at your fingertips. So
Mm.
I'm getting into that phase where I think I really want to start talking more about like 2 or 3 B movies of the week, maybe just two. Nothing to really spend like an hour over, but like I notice we tend to talk about more of like the pop culture stuff, like,
Yeah.
Marvel and whenever we get the chance. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't mind. But as you were saying, we don't really want to necessarily be like the Marvel shill.
Right.
So like I wouldn't mind injecting into integering some like camp into some of our discussions. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
if you're interested, it's free. All you have to do is just put in your credit card. No, I'm kidding. All you have to do is just do some email and a password, and you have, I'm not even kidding, thousands of fucking movies that I haven't even fucking heard of that look just so awful. And Jetstream is in there too with Bill
Oh.
Paxton, Mark Hamill.
Yes.
You remember that one? Yeah, yeah. Long story short, when we were doing Sword and Sorcery Sundays with the old friend group, uh, it fell on to me to do
Mm-hmm.
Sci-Fi Sundays, and I got this.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
was
I
I was
remember.
with you. We were
Yep.
there. We were Mutants, and I got this 50 pack, this
Oh
like
God, that's
sci-fi
right.
collections. Yeah, right. And it was full of like sci-fi movies from the '50s to the '80s, all the way to the early '90s. And I'm like, oh, this looks so goddamn good. And I notice, I don't know why, Jetstream or Slipstream or whatever,
Mm.
and it's like, oh, in this ravaged world, aeronautic travel is the only way, or whatever. And it's got Bill Paxton in it. But even
Yeah.
better than that, is it's got a post Star Wars Mark Hamill.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so good. He plays a bad guy. He's got a beard. He's got his fucking hair like bleached platinum blonde. And like, if you're reading anything about this movie, he's like, yeah, no, I did this to get completely away from Star Wars. Like, give me a beard, make me mean, like kill me. Like, I don't give a shit. I want to get away from fucking Star Wars. It
Yeah.
didn't work. Spoiler alert, 30 years later. Um, but yeah, it's total hot garbage. It's got so many fucking people in it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
this audacious fucking, I wouldn't even call it a B movie. It just doesn't make sense. It's like this post-apocalyptic like movie where like the wind has become stronger or something, and
Mm-hmm.
there are these like personal jets that like people use now and then to travel, and humanity's reduced to like small settlements, and somewhere in there is a robot, and Mark
Mm-hmm.
Hamill's like a weird robot hunter. I don't know. It has one of my favorite scenes of all time, and I can't spoil it for anyone. But
Please don't.
yeah, anyone who's interested, go watch that. But anyway, off the hump. I've been
Going.
watching some of these shitty movies, and they're so good, and they remind me of everything that I love about movies.
Mm-hmm.
And getting back into Gunpla, I've been whenever I've been over at my wonderful fair maiden's place, she thankfully is so understanding and lets me sit there with an arched back and a beer belly without the beer, pining over these models. Um, and I'm finally actually working on a model that I
Oh.
haven't even fucking touched until like almost 2 years.
Oh wow.
Tall Geese. Yeah, Tall Geese. For anyone who knows Gundam, from Gundam Wing. Oh, Jesus, hiccups. From Gundam Wing, Tall Geese is one of the standout Gundam units.
Mm.
Kind of like right next to Epion and Wing Zero and all the five that everyone else already knows. So yeah, I'm really interested in uh, nipping this guy together and then actually painting this one. I've
Oh,
never
okay.
painted a Gunpla before, so be kind to me. I might actually post something on Twitter and get all the Gunpla nerds all creamy over it.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can count on it. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. That's pretty much my week. Nothing special. I did want to segue into something
Oh,
though,
I
pertaining
love
to last
segues.
week. I love riding on a Segway. Um, I want to talk about Taskmaster.
Uh-huh.
Um, I just see a lot of fucking hate about this character, and
Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm not hearing any fucking hate about Dracov. So, real quick, Taskmaster is like the physical foe, and Dracov is kind of like the intellectual foe,
Mm.
if you can even call them that in this sense. Um, I got it finished. I finished talking with you, and I was voicing my disappointment, um,
Mm.
because I gave, as you could probably remember from last week, I gave Taskmaster a pretty good. I gave a pretty good opinion about the character.
Yeah.
I knew that it was still rough around the edges, but altogether I thought it was a pretty good job. I was
Yeah.
still disappointed because I felt that Taskmaster didn't do enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't feel like the character was enough of a character. Um, uh, Stace, my girlfriend and I both kind of disagreed, possibly on like the temperament of the character, but we
Mm-hmm.
both agreed that she was underutilized a bit. Um, and this leads me to two of the things that I had kind of had a problem with. Um, One, my girlfriend actually came up with a great idea. Um,
Hmm.
and it was one, just get rid of Dracov. And so
Yeah.
how that would work in the story is he just fucking dies when Natasha kills him. And
Yeah.
Taskmaster, Dracov's daughter, is kind of using his persona while in
Mm.
control of the Red Room. And it made so much fucking sense because I
Yeah.
was explaining the character, the Masters guy backstory, and she
Mm.
literally just came up with that off the top of her head. And I'm like, wait, it makes sense because Taskmaster's main thing is he trains supervillains,
Yeah.
right? So he's in control of the Red Room and he's using like the persona of Dracov, or fucking I don't know. She puts his brain into like a brain thing and makes an AI out of him. Whatever,
Something.
it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But like uses his persona for the Capital to to continue the Red Room. That way,
Mm-hmm.
it's like she is the main person controlling everything, but you can also do more to give her a more active like amount of screen time.
Yeah.
Um, because I think the main crux of the story is best when it's with Taskmaster. Um, I think Dracov is just mustache twirlingly evil. I mean, Ray Winestone chews the scenery fine, but it's like I don't think he's useful to the story at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
at all. You just take any of the villainy or the overarching evil shit and just give it to Taskmaster. And it makes her all the more like just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then you make her more of an active villain, attack more, challenge Natasha on like her ideological level. One of the things I see happening a lot with these movies is that like the reveal that Taskmaster is Dracov's daughter, it doesn't really do anything for the story. It doesn't challenge Natasha in any way that really matters. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're coming to terms with like the things that you had to do when you were younger, but then
Right.
like she goes into the like barely at the end of the the third act she goes into like this pacifist thing. um
Yeah.
I really would have liked a story where you find out um personally from Natasha's point of view that Taskmaster is Dracov's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You could keep that a secret to the rest of the characters or whatever, but the entire movie is kind of like her having to deal with what she's done to some people who don't deserve it or whatever, or however you want to, the collateral damage side.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing with her family, instead of like Dracov this, Taskmaster this, and then the family. It's just unnecessarily cluttered with one extra guy who doesn't really do much. You
Yeah.
hear me? Feel me? You
Yeah. No, I
thanty.
feel it. You know what?
um
I'll go for it. You continue
no,
on.
no, no, you speak.
Well, I was gonna go on off on a little rant, so I want to make sure you finish what you got to say.
Okay. And that's another thing that I ran into is that like I'm hearing just a lot of sexist bullshit, like
Mm.
how the characters ruin this and that. Like I like Taskmaster as much as the next guy from what I've seen of him, but he's not a particularly like great like it's like what I was talking about last week. It's like if Natasha's being hunted by a dude with a photographic memory and who does spin kicks, like that's not nearly as fun, I think. Well, that would be fun in its own way. But
Mm.
for this story, I don't think it's really as good as someone who Natasha has a history with. Natasha
Mm.
knows. Natasha's like done things to. And I
Mm.
think it makes Taskmaster have a fucking purpose other than just like, oh, hey, I'm a mercenary. And, I train villains. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that. Like he's just like a mid-tier like fixture in the MCU where he's just a mercenary and he trains bad guys. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But like for this story, how they crafted it, I thought the direction that they wanted to go in was actually pretty good, and it did more for Taskmaster than I don't fucking know what. Anywho, apologize. Go ahead, Bear.
No, I was watching something, and their complaint was that, and I can get behind what they're talking about, that she wasn't sexy, which is weird. That's how they started the conversation, and I was kind of like what do they mean, right?
Yeah.
um and they're saying, like, in the sense of, like, why couldn't Black Widow have a generic superhero movie, right? Like, if you think of
Mm,
any other superhero movie that's a man, always has their shirt off, and ends up with a love interest of some sort, right?
Hmm.
Like they compared it to Wonder Woman, where like Wonder Woman has a love interest, and then love interest, I believe, dies, and then Wonder Woman goes out, fucks people up, as revenge and stuff like that. Like, why couldn't Black Widow do that? More like,
Well, yeah, in my
you know,
opinion, I think that was a pretty generic story. Like, I don't.
like,
I
like,
feel like the getting the girl at the end or getting the person at the end is generic, and I like that they. I mean, there isn't much divergence in these
mm-hmm,
stories anyway.
yeah,
But in my opinion, I feel like how they handled this story was pretty generic to begin with, and it was fine.
yeah,
I actually. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
I was gonna say like story wise, very generic, but it's just they pulled it off very well.
Yeah,
They pulled it
because
off
I
very
can't help
well.
it. Yeah, I feel like all the complaints about this movie are just like you ruined a character that no one really cared about to begin with, and girl power. I don't know. And it wasn't
Yeah,
even that big of a deal in that way.
yeah, like I understand their statement where like, every other person, at least superhero, right? Avenger, when they have their own solo film, they, you know, especially male, I think is she the only female in the Avengers at that time?
Marvel. Yeah, at the time
Yeah,
for
so
like the Avengers 1 and 2
because there's
until Maximoff.
Wanda and Captain Marvel later, right? Those are the two
Mhm.
that come in later. And that's one thing that they're saying too, like they also didn't really have like a like I guess like they're going with sexy, right? Like they weren't sexy compared to the males were again shirts off, you know, always love interest, right? And I was kind of like,
I don't know.
okay, like I get it, like they're saying like they should have had Black Widow, especially again because this is it, right? Black Widow's done, she's dead, so
Yeah.
kind of go out like James Bond wise, right? Like go in, get the woman, or man, or whatever, right? Get the person, and then fuck some shit up, right? Like I get it, but I guess their point was more of like Marvel's doing this thing where like they have to do this thing with like female superheroes where like the male superheroes get this generic thing, you know? And I don't know, like just I get it, right? Like I can see it cuz every female superhero movie is not it's not the same as like because you think of like Ant-Man. Like Ant-Man, Paul Rudd was had his shirt off, right? And he always has a love interest, right? Whether it's the Wasp or his ex-wife or whatever. And you would I don't know, it's one of those films where it's like why would Ant-Man have a love interest kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And you even think of Venom. It's
Oh
another
yeah.
big example of that, right? Like why does Venom have a love interest, right?
Mhm.
like like
I like, yeah, to be fair, I like that they didn't do a love interest.
yeah, like I agree. I think like I said, like I think Black Widow was written very well. Like I understand their standpoint, like I get it, right? Like okay, like it would be nice to see a male superhero movie, like a solo one, right? Where
Mhm.
it was more story driven. Even
To be
though
fair, if I may,
mhm,
I think Doctor Strange kind of does that a bit. Like there is the push for a love interest, but
mhm,
given how his story unfolds as someone who is selfish, egotistical, and then becomes more altruistic in the end and realizes like that he needs to sacrifice
yeah,
himself sometimes, he loses the girl in the end.
yeah,
Like his winning negates any future with Rachel McAdams' character. I'm sure they'll change it
Right.
um in the second one. But I think that's a perfect example of a movie where it's like there was something there when they were, before he became a superhero. He becomes a superhero, he saves the day, and him realizing his part to play while saving the world negates that trope, the reward of
Right.
getting the girl in the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure you could stretch that any other way where it's like, oh, they do get together, oh, da 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 da. But I do think Strange is kind of an movie to begin with, but I was really surprised that they don't have something at the end. They don't
Yeah.
have something where it's like, oh, he saves her and they have a romantic kiss. There's a moment where I think she kisses him on the cheek but walks away,
Yeah.
and he kind of has to accept that, like, no, being the Sorcerer Supreme or just being Doctor Strange at the moment is not compatible with having someone to care about or having
Yeah.
someone to
True.
love.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could see the dynamic, but I think that has to do with more like male power fantasy. Like, you're like this awesome superhero character, and at the end
Mm,
you're rewarded with this female character
yeah.
for all of your heroic deeds. Um, I noticed that, like, of course, like Captain Marvel
Mm,
has none of that at all. There isn't even like a hint of romantic chemistry with any person.
right.
Uh, and this one, there's a slight flirtation with the smuggler guy. Um, and fucking Wanda's the only character who you like actually see their fantasy. Their fantasy is to have a normal life
Yeah.
with the person that they love. And to be fair, like, I think WandaVision's a great example of getting well, not necessarily getting the guy in the end, but having that fantasy to a degree. Well,
Mm,
maybe not everyone's fantasy, but
right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just something that you talking about one or Black Widow kind of brought up that I've read about. I was like, huh. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm not against that. It's just like I guess like their main thing was just it just seems like every female superhero seems to be getting like because they're comparing it to Wonder Woman, right? Because Wonder Woman was your generic superhero movie where basically even though Wonder Woman is female, she still had that generic, love interest, you know,
hmm
you know, kick everyone's ass and, end up, whatever, right? So it's like and they're just comparing it to all the Marvel movies where it's, there was kind of nothing there, compared to like what
right.
Wonder Woman is. So it's just something
To
that I
be
was thinking
fair,
about.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. To be fair, I don't like. I think the the concept of like the female love interest or the male love interest. I just think the concept of the love interest in every like Marvel movie just shouldn't exist. Like, you should have a couple established characters who are in relationships, like, oh, here's my boyfriend, or oh, here's my partner, oh, here's my
Yeah.
wife. And then like you could build something like a
Yeah.
relationship. Like, I kind of like that they were trying to do that with Loki. But again, that falls into what we were talking about, where it's like Loki like builds this relationship. The only inversion is what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Um I just feel like I don't think the MCU is at a point now where it needs um every single character, which is what they do with male characters more predominantly, but that's part of the whole male power fantasy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need a love interest in every movie. And I like that a good portion of some of the female character films or female superhero films don't necessarily have that. I like that Captain Marvel didn't. Captain Marvel had no fucking need for one. Um, Neither did Black Widow, in my opinion. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Like,
No, no, I can
ah,
get behind you. Like, I get their view, like what they've kind of like put together. Like, oh, like doesn't seem like it's kind of like it's like, what's the word, the term they use? Reverse sexism, I
I mean, I
believe.
don't particularly think that's too much of an issue. Like, I get like
Yeah,
they
but
focused on male gaze stuff and
yeah.
or female. It's not even male. See, that's the problem, in my opinion, is that it's.
Mm,
I don't consider that really an issue.
yeah.
Where it's like, oh well, Chris Hemsworth has his shirt off. Da da da. It's like I don't. I don't think that's the same as like Scarlett Johansson like having a scene where she's like walking out of a waterfall in like a two piece. I
Hmm.
don't think that's the same thing. Like I get that there's a slight like sexualization, but they're not the same. I don't. No. I make no comparisons there. They are not the same. Um,
Hmm.
I do think there are some things like when people are talking about like, oh, this person doesn't have a girlfriend, this, that, this, that. I feel like more of it is geared towards the male gaze. So even if it's Black Widow, there's still a lot of male gaze stuff going on in there.
Hmm.
Uh I still think like Captain Marvel was a bit like girl bossy for me, which is what
Hmm.
like spawned like jackasses like The Quartering to just like shit on someone like Brie Larson for fucking 5 years straight.
Yeah.
Um like I have my own issues with like Captain Marvel. I don't think it's a particularly compelling movie. It kind of loses the point of its story, at least to me. If anyone wants to like challenge me on, not even challenge me, but just like show me their opinion of it, I'd be more than willing to hear it. But I have my own issues with that movie that I would love to talk about another time. Um, but I don't think they're all that different from the other movies. Like, I don't think it's a guy girl issue. I just think it's an issue with like tropes in Hollywood and cinema to begin with that we should just get rid of.
Right.
Like I understand there are some gendered things going on, but I don't think it's a necessarily a gendered issue. I think it's just an issue that filmmakers, not even filmmakers, I just think it's more of a Disney issue. I think it's more of the studio issue that says like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do that. Da 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 da, and that's it.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel it.
Because like I felt like the idea of fuck, I had a brain fart. God damn, just talk. Fuck you. Fuck shit.
Hub dub dub dub.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's just something about. I mean, it's not. Again, I agree. Like those movies, I think are fine. I don't think there's nothing wrong with them. I think, like, if they continue and just focus more on films that just do story and less about like the whole, I don't know, like it doesn't, the thing is it doesn't bother me that a dude goes shirtless, or if there's a um if a female, character walks through a waterfall in a two piece, like it doesn't bother me, like as long as the story is good, it's like that's all that really matters to me.
I think what gets me sometimes though is that that's still not enough for people. Like this movie's not getting nearly as much hate as Captain Marvel, but it's like Taskmasters, and that's why I wanted to bring that up is because it's like, in my opinion, it really is just because she's a girl. The character, like they
Yeah.
literally took like a white bread fucking like dude, like Taskmaster from the
Yeah.
comics, and they're saying, oh, it's not the real
Right.
Taskmaster. I'm like,
So
motherfucker, this is the
like
realest fucking Taskmaster in the MCU.
so like with
And
Taskmaster,
Task Whiskers,
yeah, they're they have a helmet,
Catmaster.
right? They have a suit.
Yeah. Like,
So
yeah.
why can't it just, why does it matter what's underneath if they're going to be wearing a suit?
Exactly. And nothing changes. She's literally like I don't understand that. I don't understand it. Like she's a supervillain who copies people's abilities.
Hmm.
Does this character do that in the comic book? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you angry about? Like, if you're angry that the character didn't get enough screen time, that was treated a little bit too much like the Terminator, that didn't have like a compelling reason to really exist, sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think those are particularly valid criticisms. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
be like, well, I didn't like the outfit, sure, that's a more um uh, I think that's a more personal critique that isn't really
Mm-hmm.
all that tangible.
Yeah.
But like, if you're saying it's not the real Taskmaster, I think you're full of shit. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care. I don't like the moment you say it's not the real Taskmaster, or like, oh, it's not the real Mandarin, or oh, it's not the real this and this character. I think you're full of shit. Like,
Yeah.
I literally just spent this time talking about like Dune and how I know how the book ends and how I want to see how the movie compares. But like, I'm not going to be like, this isn't the real Dune, or like, this isn't
Right.
the real Star Wars. And I fucking hate that shit about fandom sometimes, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't just extend to like girls playing this character where it was predominantly played by a male. It's like, this fan base is like, this is what I'm entitled to. If I don't get it this way, I'm gonna bitch and moan that
Right.
like that girls are taking over. I don't know.
So
I just I think it's fucking silly. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I thought the actress actually got kind of fucking shafted a bit because I thought she should have had more screen time with the mask off. I think she should have had dialogue. I think, like we were talking about last week, I don't think that the thing should have worked. I don't even think she should have been programmed. I think it should have
Yeah.
literally just been her in charge, wanting
Yeah.
revenge.
Yeah. That would
Like,
have been a way better story.
those are things that I took offense at, not, oh no, the person who typically had a penis now has a vagina.
Mm, that's
And it's like,
awful.
yeah. No, you know what? Fucking here. Winter Soldier is another great example. Winter Soldier, they're like, I get that Black Widow for the longest time was getting tossed around like a fucking peyote pipe with like love interests,
Yeah.
but Chris
Chris Evans.
Evans, Steve Rogers, and Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff were not love interests in that movie. They had some kind of like tension there that the filmmakers obviously made, but like, there was no romance in that, and neither was there any romance between fucking um Steve Rogers and what's her name, Carter. Like, Winter Soldier is a perfect example. Like, the guy doesn't fucking take his shirt off. The only instance where you see any degree of like male nudity, if you can even call it that, is when um what's his name has his shirt off in like the brainwash booth, and that's
Yeah.
fucking it. And like, that's still a male gaze movie where it's like, yeah, I want to be able to jump real high, and oh, I want to be able to punch stuff and fight with a knife real cool. Like, that's male gaze stuff. Like, I'm sure there, it's not entirely, but when we're talking about stuff like that, it's like, what is it that like triggers the things that like dudes want, or what people think dudes want? And I think it's
Mm,
bullshit personally, but like, that's what gets asses in seats for some things. Like, Black Widow is still a male gaze movie too.
mm,
So it's like, it sucks when it's like, oh, this is a movie that for all intents and purposes is about like a Hollywood's opinion of a tough female woman.
right.
Um it's still a movie that's geared towards guys, and guys are still bitching that there are too many girls in it.
Yeah. In the end, yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
So I'm
But
I'm probably fucking off my rocker with it.
no, uh but you're right, like Taskmaster, I'm never gonna get that.
Hat whiskers.
Taskmaster Hat Whiskers.
You didn't
Taskmaster.
say cat whiskers right, you
Oh
motherfucker.
shit. um I believe could have been written better.
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah, no.
at the end she basically is free, and now what? Where's
Yeah.
Taskmaster the villain?
Hmm.
Where is this person? Gone. It's like, I think that's something I would be more, so I didn't grow up reading comics, right? So to me, whether Taskmasters is gonna be in fucking the MCU or not, I can give two shits about, right?
Mhm.
But if I wanted them to be in the MCU series, this doesn't look good, right? It's just like, okay, well, now that
It's a
they're,
weak start. It's a weak start,
yeah,
definitely.
like, so what? How are they gonna be villain? How is Taskmaster gonna be a villain when
Mhm.
she was being mind controlled and now she's not? Like, so what
Mhm.
now? You know, so
I mean, they
that
could definitely do more brainwashing stuff with her. I think it'd be a little generic. But like I think the hey, I'm actually kind of fine being a mercenary would work so much well or so much better if she
mm-hmm,
wasn't brainwashed to begin with.
right,
Like, oh hey, I'm trained to do this. Um my dad trained me. Or no, not even that, because in my story or in my baby's story he'd be dead. Like, hey, I've been training, I'm really good at it. I have a photographic memory, or like I have a computer thing that helps me. I'm good at this. And I want to keep doing this
mm,
after, since Romanov's dead. But like now it's like, oh, who am I? What am I doing? And I'm like, that's kind of an interesting thing. Like you have a reformed Taskmaster, but like if you want to put that character in multiple stuff, like you gotta really do some mental gymnastics to like find a reason why they're gonna be doing Taskmaster shit in the next movies or
yeah,
shows.
right. Oh yeah, shows, yeah, but yeah.
And speaking of, no, did you want to mention anything else?
No, I think we're I said my 2 cents about that.
Hmm. Hmm. Now I'm just thinking of movies where, damn it, DMZs.
Tell me what's going through your brain.
Not much, I can tell you that. Mm. Thor: Love and Thunder, I think, might be one.
Mm-hmm.
Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, I know in the comic books, apparently Valkyrie's like asexual. She's like, oh, men get in the way of all this fighting that I want to do. I don't know if that's the same way in the comic or in the movies, but like that's a perfect example. And like, yeah, like Chris Hemsworth is definitely the guy doing all of the I'm the hot dude carrying stuff. Um, in my opinion, just like fucking whatever. I don't care. I think it's an innocuous sexualization of what I can imagine. So let's see: Chadwick Boseman, uh, Mark Ruffalo, barely, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans. Yeah, a good portion of the male characters. But like, again, I think this is a fairly silly, like, oh whoa, we're in a franchise where we see a lot more guy titties. Da 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 da. What about, the female waterfall fit? And I'm like, no 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 no. That's innocuous. Like there is a clear difference between the sexualization of like a guy just walking out with his shirt off, which I get is like, sure, male
Mm-hmm.
body, ideal male body, whatever, versus like someone like Natasha walking out of, I'm just doing the waterfall thing just because I don't
Yeah.
fucking know why. Just walking out of a pool or walking out somewhere with her tits out, or like uh the shit in Iron Man 2 where it's like half the screen time is like of her ass. Like there is a
Yeah.
difference in my opinion. Um but yeah, like this is just being bitching. I mean, I could really do with some more information because I'm probably talking out of my ass for a good portion of it. But
Oh, good. Um, do you want to continue with talking about movies?
uh, yes, absolutely. Did we want to when we have a couple of things on the docket? We have Loki that we wanted to get to. Are we gonna get? Do we want to get to that, or do we want to talk about one or two more movies?
Let's talk about the movies, and then we'll hop
Okay.
over to Loki.
So the first one is the Tomorrow War. This is Chris Pratt meets Independence Day. So, unless I'm mistaken, this was the largest acquisition by Amazon.
Oh.
And they're already greenlit a week after this movie was released to make a sequel to this. Um, God, I don't even know what I want to say about this movie. It misses so many marks
Mhm.
and throws so much on Chris Pratt. First of all, let me get the cast out of the way real quick. So you got
Yeah.
Chris Pratt as the main character. You have oh God, what is her? She was in Magnolia. Betty
Yeah.
something. Doesn't
Oh,
matter.
yeah.
The wife. You have J.K. Simmons as Chris Pratt's father. You have Yvonne Strahovski, I believe her name is, as Miranda Lawson. Kidding. No, no, no. As as a colonel from the future. And then you have a couple other supporting cast members. You have geez, right off the top of my head, Sam Richardson, I think his name is.
Mm.
And I think that's the only guy that really fucking matters, to be honest. Anyway, the plot of the story is spoiler alert. Uh, Chris Pratt is kind of your everyman, like the ideal, like all American dude. He did a couple tours in Iraq. He's like a military scientist. He's trying to get a grant or something, and life just isn't going his way. He couldn't get the grant. He's having a hard time. Da da da. And while watching a fucking soccer game in the fucking heartland of America, by the way.
Huh.
God, it's so weird. You already know this movie's unrealistic. Um,
Mhm.
People from the future come and they very poorly explain, "Hey, we're from the future. Our world is fucked. We need people to help." So they briefly explain that they sent the world's military to go help, and they all fucking died. So now they're pretty much just fucking conscripting average people, or as they describe later in the movie, people who have died before the year 2050 something,
Mhm.
essentially. Um, I don't necessarily know how the timeline thing works. They have been very vague with it. I'll go further into it. Um, Chris Pratt is conscripted. He's not left with much of a choice. He goes in, there's some la di da about who he is, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He bids his family goodbye. He goes and does the future war. Um, he then meets his daughter. So his daughter is the Eva Strahovski Colonel Future character. So this is 30 years in the future. She's like 39, 40, whatever. Sorry, I mean to spoil it for you, baby. So essentially aliens have taken over in the future. They're like these actually the design is pretty creepy. We'll get into it later.
Mhm.
Um they're taken over by these creatures that like eat and kill everything.
Mhm.
And Ava Strahovski's character is like, the world is fucked.
Yeah.
Dot dot dot. All we're trying to do is conscript a shitload of people to buy us time to find like some kind of contagion to kill these things. So long story short, they do. Chris Pratt gets the thing. He fucking is sent back in time just as his daughter dies, like in his arms.
Mm.
Um, the third act of the movie is them having the contagion, cool, uh, and then kind of an unexpected third act where it's like, oh, well, now we have to find out where they came from because no one knows where they came from in the beginning. So they find out that they're somewhere in like Antarctica or like Siberia or whatever. They go, they destroy the ship that they're on. Happy ending.
Oh.
Um, there was a lot of stuff kind of thrown on the table here that I don't think worked. They did like a draft metaphor that I think was really mixed and didn't work. Uh, J.K. Simmons' character is underused. Ava Strahovski is pretty good. She doesn't have much to work with. Betty, fucking what's her name? Betty Magnolia. That's what I'm gonna call her. She
Yeah.
has like next to nothing to work with. She's just the wife. which is a little disappointing. I honestly think the standout character and the standout character they even butcher is Sam Richardson. Sam Richardson, God, I fucking love this guy. He is the best part of Veep. He's the funny, jittery, like black actor that you see in the trailers all the time.
Yeah.
He is in the beginning of the second act and is essentially gone for the entire future part of the movie, and then appears in third act. I'll get into that in a moment. And the same thing with J.K. Simmons. This is largely a Chris Pratt vehicle with hefty sprinklings of Ivan Strahovski.
Hmm.
And I don't think it quite works in that way. I don't know what it is. I like Chris Pratt in this; he's fine. Ev Strahovski is pretty good in this, but it's going for like some kind of hopeless Independence Day vibe that isn't quite working for me.
Okay.
Chris Pratt has a difficult relationship with his father, J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is a world, Jesus, no, that's old. Is a Vietnam vet. And there's a really strong moment where Chris Pratt goes to him to get the gauntlet that they put on future conscripts removed to dodge the draft.
Mm.
And J.K. Simmons is talking about like, I never should have been there for you. You didn't want me there because I was a different person after the war and all that, and war changes and all that shit. And at the end of the fucking movie, like there's this perfect moment where Chris Pratt could go up to J.K. Simmons and he's like, "Hey, I still don't forgive you, but I understand you now." And they completely just nope, none of that. It's just like, "Hey, I need your help."
Mm.
And then J.K. Simmons does this thing where he tries to sacrifice himself in the end. It doesn't fucking work, and it's like, "Oh, hey, we're a family now." Um, but yeah, I really would have liked a through line where it's like, oh yeah, war kind of fucks people up. Uh, yeah, I can empathize with my father sadly from this point of view where it's like, how can I be a good father and all this when I've gone through this kind of stuff? Sam Richardson gets fucking shafted again too. There's another actor with him that also gets the shaft. Sam Richardson is a nobody in the beginning. He's like a tech guy, a
Yeah.
tech person, a tech bro, and he's kind of sheltered under Chris Pratt's wing uh, when they're traveling into the future. Um, they have like one set piece together, and then I think the middle of the movie, he just goes off and does other bullshit with the other character, and you don't see this guy until the end of the second act when they're all brought back. So how the time thing works is it's completely linear. Okay.
Okay.
So they're conscripted. There's a device in the future which brings them to that specific timeline. They can't bring you to like 2049 or 20 whatever and just stop everything. It has to be like if a week passes, if a fucking week passes in our time, a week passes in their time, and you have a 7 day conscription. So if you fill out your 7 days and you survive, you're sent back. But there's like a really low survival rate and all this bullshit. So uh, Yvonne Strahovski brings her father to the future, gives him like high clearance and all this shit. And she is aided by him in finding the Queen White Spike. White Spikes, the aliens, they're like these weird, like tick, like white big tick ant things with really sharp teeth, and they have these tentacles on their backs that shoot spikes. And they're
Mm.
super fucking deadly, and they eat shit, and they just go from planet to planet and just devour stuff. So they capture the queen and they develop an antigen, and the sea base that they're in is attacked, and Ivan Strahovski gives Chris Pratt's character the antidote and dies like just as he's like sent back in time. And when he's sent back in time, they're all sent back in time in the same instant. And Sam Richardson's character is lying on a gurney and he's like, "Oh, I hid. Oh God. And I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? Are you fucking kidding me? You just took like some off-screen character development right there. And then in the third season, or God, why do I say season? And in the third act, you find out that like these things have been here for thousands of years. They go and destroy the nest ship thing, and he just just apparently like develops courage and finds the fucking chainsaw from Army of the Dead and just saws this fucking animal in half like it's nothing. Like, oh, uh, I'm not afraid of anything. Like, it would have been so much more interesting if like this character had been in the same area with Chris Pratt and
Hmm.
chickened at that moment, and we
Oh,
saw the fear.
yeah.
We only like hear about it, and like in storytelling, if you hear about something or if you don't necessarily see it, it's meant to cushion the impact of it. Uh, I think Jamie Lannister is the best example. Well, that's kind of for a different reason, but essentially, it impacts like if you're watching a scene and there's a scene where someone does something cowardly. Um, okay, so let me think of an example. If if Burke in Aliens, if
Hmm.
all of his let me backstab everyone stuff was cut. So here's the hypothetical. All of his
Yeah.
backstabbing stuff was cut, okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you find out that he's missing, but he's dead. And you're like, "Oh, this son of a bitch was trying to double cross us." The impact of him being a spineless backstabber wouldn't be as powerful as us having seen the stupid shit that he did, right?
Yeah.
So I get the impression that they were like, "Oh, we can't have him like visually be a coward or do something like he's not a coward. He's an average fucking human being. He has no military training except for, aside from Chris Pratt, and like this is a big moment. This is a moment where it's like he doesn't have anyone to help him. I don't know. I just felt it was weird because it's like then he gets like the most cartoonish kill in the entire movie in the end, and I'm like that just doesn't pay out for me. Um, but yeah, Eva Strahovski is pretty good. Again, she gets kind of like the I need to be cold and detached, but like you're my dad and I need you to be here. Um, essentially what happens is in Evan Strahovski's timeline, 7 years from the beginning of the movie, so like 2030, uh, Chris Pratt has divorced his wife and has kind of become like a deadbeat dad, and he
Hmm.
just dies, which is
Hmm.
completely fucking out of character. Like how they frame him as a dad in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, there isn't even like an implication as to who he could be. Um, which coincides with what I was saying with J.K. Simmons with the whole I can empathize with you thing. Um, so she's like, I loved you and I wanted to see you like this when you were perfect. And he's like, I won't be that person, da da da. So he makes this promise to save their world. He does it, but while they're in this timeline, she's like, they just came out of Russia and we don't know where the fuck they came from. Uh, so Chris Pratt goes back to his time. He does his thing, and the world's kind of ready to like move on. And he finds out that these things were like here thousands and thousands of years ago, but they got caught in the ice and they froze. And it's only been until like 2040 whatever when global warming, climate change kind of took effect that these things thawed out and came out of the ice. You find out that these things are somewhere in Siberia. Um, and then you like the bit of storytelling right here. They get to a ship and the ship is piloted by aliens, like other kind of aliens that you have to like either assume like we're transporting these things as cargo or uh using them as like a weapon drop. It tries to be a bit like Alien in that respect where you find this derelict ship and it's got this little bit of visual storytelling where it's like, oh, what could possibly be going on, except it doesn't do it nearly as well.
Yeah.
The budget on this is fucking big. There are a lot of set pieces here. Um, the CGI is pretty good. Music is forgettable. Um, Again, you mix up your tones. Like I got like a very weird draft vibe, and then like a weird family vibe too. I don't know. At the end of the day, I thought it was strange how the time thing worked, and then there's no comment on like how like how time is affected at all. Um, so like, are we in like a parallel like timeline now where they win and everything goes back to normal, or so on and so forth? So weird stuff. Solid movie. Sam Richardson is the best part of the movie, and he's barely in it.
Wow.
So yeah, you know what you need to fucking do? You need to watch these goddamn movies so that we have something to comment on.
I mean, do you really want me to watch these movies?
I don't want you to watch this one now.
Okay.
And you know what? Speaking of Sam Richardson,
Yeah.
Werewolves Within.
Oh god.
um, I'm a big fan of whodunits.
Yeah.
I'm getting my lady into them. Uh, so it's really fun watching some of the old ones and going over some of them too. But Werewolves Within is I believe what I saw before was it was a Ubisoft property apparently.
Oh.
Um, yeah, interesting stuff. It's a film produced by Ubisoft, or yeah, produced by Ubisoft, and it's a whodunit with a werewolf. So again, spoilers. The cast for this one, God, I don't even know. It's got it's got Sam Richardson, the guy from the funny guy from the Tomorrow War, and then it has the what is it, Progressive or something? It's like Melania something. The commercial person. I don't fucking know. Doesn't
Yeah.
fucking matter. But it's got a not a cast of unknowns, but a cast of people whose names you're not going to remember off the top of your head, except for again Sam Richardson. I've been following him since Veep. Like I like this guy. This is his first like big like role. I'm
Oh.
I'm so proud of him. Um, he plays a sheriff or a ranger coming into this new town. He
Mm.
meets all the people uh, who are all characters in their own right, and then a werewolf comes along and fucking kills everyone. Um, they essentially kind of do the trappings of a whodunit. You're essentially in this dark, wintry town with a mansion or a hotel style area, and it's dark and no one trusts one another. Uh, so I oh, spoilers first. Plot. So he gets to know everyone, and then you find out that there's this werewolf that is trapping everyone in the town and has consolidated everyone into this hotel. And people one at a time are slowly dying until the the group disbands over distrust, and then they start killing each other.
Oh wow.
It's eventually revealed that the female character, I always fucking forget her name. Hold on, let me find out what fucking commercials she does.
Is
She's
it
fucking popular.
is
She
it the
does
AT and
nothing but
T one?
I think so.
AT&T.
Melania Vaintrub. Let me fucking find this shit out. Sorry, folks.
Fucking right here, doing it live.
Motherfucker, you wanted to play fucking He-Man commercials. Fucking calm down.
Those are great.
They really are. Yeah, the AT&T girl. Yeah.
Okay.
So you find out that she's the fucking werewolf. You find out that
Oh.
she's the werewolf, and she's been like trying to trap everyone in this town so that she can have like a winter snack.
Oh, okay.
Um, she's eventually killed, and that's it.
Oh, boo.
So, um, I don't particularly think this is a very good whodunit. Um,
Mm,
I think all things said and done, I think it's a very well produced video game movie because apparently it was based off of a video game.
okay.
Um, so whodunits tend to employ a lot of satire or social commentary. Knives Out is one of my favorites in this instance, where it kind of uh, takes ideology or it takes like positions on where people are, where they come from, and how that plays into how they are as characters. Um, this is kind of just like a GTA style satire, or satirize everything for the fun of it.
Hmm.
Uh, I've never been a particular fan of that. I prefer when things are very pointedly satire and very few things within the movie are satirized, so that you don't lose sight of what you're satirizing.
Yeah.
This movie is just kind of like, oh hey, we're in a town where there are a bunch of kooky people. We got the out of town like yuppies. We've got the PC gay couple, yay, and then we've got the conservatives.
Mm,
And like it's all just like Family Guy style, quick, quippy, like, oh, let's like reduce everything to like, you know, the one joke that everyone makes about every group. And I don't care for that really. I think I'm probably making a bigger deal than I should. I just find like satire like that to be kind of lazy, where it's like you don't want to make an opinion on one specific kind of group or person or an attitude towards something. So you just satirize everything. I get that impression with GTA, honestly. If I can just diverge for a moment, like GTA is always, I don't know why everyone reviews GTA as like nail biting American satire, and it's like it's not American satire. It's just satirizing everything under the sun, and that's not really productive for satire. Satire is most productive and most, I think, nail biting or gritty or whatever the fuck you want to call it, when it takes like a very pointed subject and satirizes it.
yeah.
So that's just my opinion on that. Sam Richardson is he plays the nice guy. He essentially just plays himself. Um, Very kind of down to earth, but a little awkward.
Mm,
Um, uh, Milana Vaintrub or Weintrub kind of chews the scenery a bit. She's like the quirky wallflower girl until she's the fucking psychotic werewolf murderer. That's fun. Everyone in it is kind of just drowned or distilled into like, oh, let's make them like a joke within a joke. Like again, you've got the gay couple, like the one who's not so PC, and then like the the overly PC Hispanic Latino character.
mm,
Then you've got the hillbilly like trailer park trash characters, and you've got the yuppies, and then you've got the like conservatives, and it's just like generic. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but where was I? Okay, so they're eventually all locked into this hotel room, this
yeah.
hotel space, and a couple people die at a time. But I think it loses a lot of its energy
Mm,
when it goes for the let's not all trust each other and just leave, because then a couple people at a time start killing each other, and none of these things are all really related to one another, and the oxygen is kind of sucked out of the room. Um,
okay.
Whodunits really contain the suspense when you're in a contained environment. That's where I think Knives Out kind of almost lost a lot of its momentum when the movie moved out of its environment. Um,
Okay.
they decide to flee. Vatrub and Richardson are together and are trying to figure out who's doing all this. You find out the one of these guys is in charge of finding this werewolf for some reason. He just is looking for a werewolf and has sabotaged all this stuff. So it's not the werewolf that's done it. Just natural circumstance, and this one asshole looking for the werewolf has caused this, and so he's taken out. And then at the end of the movie, Richardson finds out that Vatrub is the werewolf, and she kind of reveals like, oh, she's kind of just an asshole.
Mm.
Um, so they have a little thing where they duke it out, and then the neighborhood isolationist, and I'm literally talking like a dude in bearskin outfit, comes in and tries to save the day. At the end, it is the hotel manager who saves the day. She
Wow.
gives the best performance, the
Okay.
fucking best. There's a moment where we find the first body and it's her husband, and she has like this 15-second like no never mind scene where she's just crying, and it's the best fucking part of the movie. Like her expressions, how she cries, like the scene composition, the blocking that everyone has is so good, so fucking good.
Ooh.
If I could, I would say that the movie feels produced.
Mm.
So you know how you and I were talking about Marvel movies and how they kind of follow the same produced kind of thing. This
Yeah.
movie felt like we need to make a whodunit, and they
Mm.
have all of the things that look like they make a whodunit. Like, oh, let's have these wacky characters, and like, oh, let's have this setting. But they don't really tackle like I think what makes, or at least I don't think they understood necessarily what made whodunit so enjoyable.
Mm.
Um, and on top of that, it feels very by the numbers. Well, same thing as produced, I would suppose. It feels as though again, it's just more concerned with getting from point A to point B,
Okay.
without any real consideration for like the characters and why they would get there necessarily. Characters just do that. It's funny. Some of the jokes really don't land for me. But I mean, there's some parts that I do think are genuinely funny. Some of the humor I think comes from most of the humor I think that I enjoy comes from Sam Richardson and Milana Vetra, because I think out of everything they actually have solid chemistry together, and that's about it.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean,
So if you want to
yeah.
know, I recommend both of them. 4 stars out of 5.
Well,
100% recommend.
I a lot higher than I thought.
Yeah, 5 out of 7.
That's um. Oh, I mean, I probably won't ever watch them, but if
I'll
they're
fucking
on,
make you watch them.
what we could do, we can bring back Sci-Fi Sundays. Nothing's stopping us.
Ooh, yeah, there really isn't.
I have Sundays off.
That'd be good. I'd be down. Like what, every other week?
Whatever.
Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm down. I'll do a blood pact right now. I'll cut my hand right now.
Hmm.
I'll
I
put it
would.
on a wall with a picture of your face, and I'll rub it around. It'll be like right out of a movie. You'll love it.
Yeah. Sick.
Yeah, I'm fucking down. I'll see if I can find that cartridge or that box if I even still have it.
Cool. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. More shit
Fuck
to
yeah,
talk
I
about.
will. Damn
um.
straight. Oh, that'll be so good.
I think we can move
Oh
on
gosh,
from
we'll be like Red Letter Media. We'll talk about shit all the time.
clap clap. Um. We can move on from cinematography into the video games. You
Yes.
recently got a laptop.
Right?
Now,
And I've been mentioning how I've been ascending to the ethereal plane of the PC.
yes, you have.
Well, this is a laptop. Don't tell anyone. But
So you've played a few games
right.
since you've gotten it.
So
Please talk to me.
I yeah. So I jury rigged System Shock 2 into here, and I actually today just bought Black and White 2 with the intent of doing the same thing, since
Okay.
these old PC games don't work on a modern Windows 8 operating system. So I wanted to talk about System Shock 2.
Okay.
Um, so I've let me point out first of all, I haven't played that much of it. I'm adulting pretty hard now, and it's noticeably a lot more laggy. Um,
Okay.
putting in, like the obscene amount of times I would put into other games before. But from what I've played of System Shock 2, I fucking love it.
All right. All right.
Like it's got a fucking difficulty curve that just puckers your anus something fierce. It's fucking creepy. Um,
So
and there's a specific reason. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna ask you. Can you, you tell me that, but also explain the gameplay to me because I personally have not played it.
I was actually about to get into that.
Oh shit!
So the
Perfect.
game is very much an immersive sim.
Oh okay.
So for anyone who doesn't know, let me poorly explain an immersive sim to you. An
Okay.
immersive sim is essentially a game about player freedom. And before you say something like, well, Skyrim or Mass Effect, I won't entirely disagree with you on something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I think of an immersive sim, I think of D&D. And D. And I don't think of D&D in the sense of like choose your own path. I think of it from more of a mechanical standpoint. So typically how D&D works, and I'm probably poorly going to explain this, is the DM has created an environment, and the environment can be traversed and interacted with in the way that you are trained to play. So, like you're playing a paladin, or you're playing a rogue, or you're playing a ranger, or playing a fucking barbarian. You're essentially playing it mechanically. Not. I mean, you're not. You can do the same thing where it's like, oh, me barbarian, me hit things. But let's say that there's a, a focal point. Let's say there's an obstacle in the road. Um, the beauty of D&D is that you can play any class in any race that you choose, and there will always be a multitude of ways that you can get through this focal point. You could use diplomacy, you can stab the fuck out of them, you can sneak past them, you can fucking hire them to your group. Um, immersive sims are games essentially where you choose the way that you would like to play. You upgrade your characters or character in that sense,
Yeah.
and the game is built around the ways that you choose to play. I don't mean necessarily like dialogue or combat necessarily. That does have a part to play, but I mean uh in the way of like System Shock 2 or Prey, which
Hmm.
haven't really realized until now is pretty much the spiritual successor to System Shock 2 in my opinion. I'll get into that later. When you're coming across obstacles, there's never one way to tackle it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean like, again, when I talk about like choices, I don't necessarily mean like dialogue option or choice path. I mean a mechanical way. Like you can, let's say you've chosen extra strength, you can lift this crate to get up on top of this platform, or you need to get past this door. You can explode something on the other end that bypasses the door. You can hack it. You can in Prey you can turn into a fucking coffee mug and
Oh.
like jump through the grating of the wall, where it's like there's no one specific way to go about it. The story is set in stone for the most part. Um, there's very little variation with how you interact with the story. It's the mechanics of the gameplay itself. I hope I'm being clear in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are.
So when playing System Shock 2, you have like this 3 year, not dissertation, but this 3 year service plan. So you're a military human, um, and the first thing that you do is you go through these 3 divisions, or you have the choice of 3 divisions that you do 3 times. So you can do what essentially amounts to like the warrior, the mage, or the thief. and you do that 3 times, and that essentially based on based on the choices that you pick, it determines your stats. So you can have like a technical skill, a combat skill, or a psi skill, PSI, and everything around the game in terms of like how you interact with uh, your the target NPCs, not target, hostile NPCs, how you
Mm.
interact with loot, how you interact with the environment, not the story necessarily, but the environment
Okay.
is based upon those choices that you make. So, for example, you have a limited amount of upgrade chips or whatever, and
Yeah.
you can upgrade whatever you want, but there isn't enough to upgrade in everything.
Right.
Whereas something like Mass Effect or Skyrim, you can pretty much upgrade everything that you want eventually. You can't do that in this game.
Okay.
I've chosen the tech stealth guy because I realized way too fucking late that this game needs to be gone through slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, I'll get into that in a moment too. But the things that I'm doing with tech allow me to hack objects and
Oh.
uh, sneak and whatnot. But the thing is I don't have as much of an armor rating. I don't have as much of a weapon durability bonus. So I have to plan out how I interact with hostile NPCs. Um,
Oh. Okay.
and I am allowed access to other things that weren't necessarily available to something like a combat player. Now this isn't exclusive in any way to a specific form of game. Like Skyrim does this. If you have like a high rating for lockpick, you can do this with lockpick. Um, I would imagine that there are some elements of that possibly in, well, maybe not in Mass Effect, but there are other instances in other games that are predominantly role-playing games that that do incorporate some immersive sim elements. But I do think immersive sim games are typically relegated to something like Dishonored, Prey, um, and System Shock, just from what I've seen. I again, that's not the only media, immersive sims obviously would probably vary to anything because immersive sims aren't particularly a
Right.
brand or a genre of game. Um, but I'm really enjoying what I'm playing so far.
Mm.
It's I don't know. I tend to like environments. How do I put it? Um, I would consider games like this a like an oval like or two lines that diverge and then come together in the end, where it's like the story is set, but how you get through that environment within that story is the important part. That's what I think makes an immersive sim.
Yeah.
Um, Dishonored is the perfect example. When you're getting into like an environment, you have millions of different ways to do it. You could spend an entire way using one ability and get anywhere you want, or you could use another ability and do the same thing. Player freedom, I think, in terms of how they play on a mechanical level. I say mechanical as in like the interaction between the person and the abilities that they have to interact with the game. Not necessarily like, as I keep saying, not necessarily like dialogue or how they influence the story, but I mean like on a gameplay level. And I don't necessarily consider like dialogue uh, that level of gameplay. Anywho, um, it's fun. It's really scary too. I noticed that the game is an immensely difficult game right off the
Yeah.
bat. Um, I'm still in the first main area of the game, and there are like these mutant human beings with clubs, and they have these very irregular like melee combat timings, but they're fucking creepy. I have nothing but like a crowbar. No, not a crowbar, a wrench. and I just got a
Oh.
handgun,
Mm.
and it is so palpable. Like I first of all, I had my headphones on. Second of all, when I was playing, my girlfriend scared the fucking shit out of me. Um, but like the gameplay creates a really great sense of, or like the game design creates a great sense of like tension because one, as soon as I got the pistol, there was barely any ammunition in it, and it's
Mm.
hard to find ammunition.
Okay.
So you have to save on that. So that means that I have to use the wrench on this close quarters combat thing that's fucking whacking me for like 50% of my health every hit.
Yeah.
And I'm on normal. And
Huh.
these things deal an unruly amount of damage, and they don't even have any ranged weapons on them. So I have to be very fucking careful about how I traverse because if I'm not careful, if I'm the first fucking time I played this game, I went
Yeah.
through a corridor right out of what I would assume is like the safe area, and I just died.
Huh.
Just so I was like walking through this hall, and my girlfriend was saying something, and I looked over at her, and then I heard something say, "Join us," and I heard like two thuds on the back of my fucking head, and I was dead. And my girlfriend's fucking mocking me right behind me. But
Huh.
like, I I I almost enjoy that. Coming from a generation and like video games where there was never a really great sense of difficulty.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of like some of that challenge, and even in Prey, even in
Yes.
Dishonored, like if you know how to game the game, then you're good. But like, there's something very, very, I think, intimate about feeling uh, vulnerable, which is what the game does a very good job at. The art design is fairly standard. It's got your typical like late '90s science fiction look to it.
Oh.
Very computer gamey look to it. I've only had a computer game or a laptop for 2 3 weeks, and I already know what computer gamey means. Um, the music has like this really good late '90s like Germany techno-y matrixy kind of like
Huh.
sound to it. Um,
Like Blade
voice
One.
acting, huh?
Blade.
Yeah, I was actually about to say that. Yeah, so good. We just need a German dude with a weird haircut and leather, just
Yep.
black PVC. Um, the voice acting is pretty good. One of the apparently I can't really find anything story related except for like
Mm.
video logs, and that's another thing too. Is uh immersive sims seem to rely more on like player ingenuity.
Oh.
They simply say like, "Oh, here are multiple paths you can take," but how you traverse this environment is entirely up to you. And instead of being an open world where it's like you can traverse anywhere, it's like not necessarily. Like we want you to go somewhere, but how you approach the way that you go is important.
Right.
Not so much like welcome to this world, like go nuts in like the open world kind of way. It's have fun with your powers, explore what you can do, and so on and so forth. Because it's like I've already ran into an instance where it's like these video logs are pointing out storytelling and game information that like I'm not finding in other spots. So you have to pay attention to the information that you have. I don't know
Right.
about you, but like the moment I play Skyrim and I read a piece of paper, I hear that little and then it just tells me to do something. There's no instance in the game where it's like I have to pay attention. Like, don't
Right.
get me wrong, it's helpful. Like, I
Yeah.
would love to be able to like read something, not pay attention, look at my pause menu bullshit, and be like, it says this. But I think there's something really satisfying against something that I didn't quite have when I was younger. I got it in Dishonored and I got it in Prey, but like watching and hearing these video logs and getting information that I can put into how I play and finding secrets is really rewarding. Like
Mm.
so rewarding. There's a part in Prey, I know I'm on the hump about it. I'm going to get to the point of this soon enough. Where you find a character's corpse and he has like a journal entry and he's talking to one of his engineers
Mhm.
about like creating a pressure plate. And he said essentially it's like a pressure release. Like you put pressure on something and it causes like a mechanism to move. Fucking Egyptian booby traps, that kind of thing, you know?
Okay.
So he's talking about this, and you go into his office and he's mentioning in his journal something about his thermos in the
Okay.
same conversation as the pressure plate. And one of the things that I didn't fucking find out until someone showed me is without a prompt, without like a fucking waypoint telling you about this, or without like a story mission coming up saying the thermos mission, you can take his thermos, put it on the pressure plate, and a little secret compartment opens up. And you get like free loot from that. And I'm
Huh.
like, that's so fucking cool. If that's like the hallmark of immersive sims, then you've already sold me. Like the idea that if you pay attention, if you read just a little bit, and you pay attention to your environment, you can be rewarded. Like one of the great things
Mm.
about immersive or Prey in that sense is like there are these things called looking glasses. The beginning of
Huh.
the game shows that they're one-way glass that project an image to the viewer, and you can break it. And on the other side, it's just glass. You can see the inside and outside and whatever. So their characters actually not the same character. Once you go to his quarters later on in the game, he's got this cool setup and all this other crap. But you can break the looking glass mirror that they have in his room, and he's got stuff behind it, and it's completely unprompted. It's just a nice fixture of the game that says, "Hey, we're rewarding you for looking around and for you and for reading and being invested." Um, so yeah, that's some of the things that I feel like I'm as a player I'm building towards appreciating a lot more. Um, I've been drawing a lot of conclusions to uh, Prey with System Shock 2, and I really
Hmm.
do get that sense. I know that the story is different. I know that the some of the tech is very different, but Looking Glass Studios was a studio that developed Thief, System Shock 1, and System Shock 2, and they went belly up, I think, in the early 2000s. And Arcane Studios has really been trying to uh, revive or at the least resuscitate the gameplay that Looking Glass Studios has been so popular with. And I see that in Prey with System Shock 2 already. I mean, I'm not even 2 hours into the game. I'm still in the main fucking room trying to get fucking whacked in the back of the head. And, a sense of prioritizing resources, uh, specialization. You cannot play the game as like a fully maxed out god. You have to, it really helps you to invest in one specific thing and kind of master that. And then, hey, if you want to play the game again, the replay value is in taking these finite things and just allocating them in a different way and tooling around with some of the fun abilities. Um, the environment itself, or a space station, for God's sake. Um, and the immersive sim elements, like how do you traverse this environment? What are my options? What am I limited to?
Yeah.
Just things that I find really fulfilling. I've mentioned to you before, I'm not unless I'm playing with my friends for a certain amount of time, I don't care for infinite replayability or you can play this for years. I don't necessarily want that. I want a game that is built to be replayed a little bit but it isn't meant to be played for years at a time.
Yeah.
And Prey Dishonored can be played multiple ways. You can play it violently, you can play it stealthy, and there are multiple ways you can do both of those. Same thing with Prey. And it looks like you do the same thing with this, and I like that. I like the idea of like, hey, you could play like the mage, the psionic character. You could play the warrior, or the combat specialist, or you could play the thief, the technician, or you could do a combination of two of those and really like play around with some of the abilities that you have in
Right.
fun ways. And I'd like to add that it seems like a lot of this is more first persony. I get the impression that just from what I've seen, that actually Fallout 1 and 2 were more immersive sim
Mm,
than the newer Fallout games. I think Bethesda is geared more
okay.
towards role play in a sense,
Yeah.
but the original Fallout, I haven't played it yet. I've downloaded it. I'm looking forward to it. But from what I've seen, the that attention to detail, using your stats and kind of being locked in and out of things based on your stats, um, and paying attention to the storytelling is something that I think is a little more akin to the immersive sim world that Fallout 1 and 2 might have more of.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've just schlocked about that for what I apologize.
No, no, it's good. It's good. I didn't want to disturb you. But it, the way you describe the way you have to survive reminds me of the very first Resident Evil, um, and that's kind of, but again, that's survival horror, so it kind of like
Hmm.
makes sense why it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. I feel like the first Resident Evil has more, like you were saying, survival horror. Survival horror tends to deal more with resource management, I've
Yeah.
noticed. Because when you're playing uh when you're playing Resident Evil,
Hmm.
it's more of a puzzle and bullet manager. And I am no
Yeah.
way using that as pejorative. From what I played of it, it has a great sense of pace, a great sense of tension. Super fucking scary. Um, but when I've played it, I realized that it's very linear. It's very linear in the sense that it's like
Yes.
it's not so much like, okay, you get to the graveyard area and there are multiple ways to get in and out of that little like cellar area,
Hmm.
or there are multiple ways that you could possibly get out of that like upstairs like booby trap that grinds you to death. Um,
Yeah.
it's you have to do this first up here, explore a bit, but you have to do this up here. You have to push the statue over, and then you have to go and get the key, and then you have to do this, and then up here, and then back here and up here. Like you can get certain weapons at any whatever amount of time if you're crafty enough, but it seems like they have a very linear way of how they want you to go about the puzzles.
Right.
And that's not, again, that's not a knock. Resident Evil 1 is an immensely influential game and in a very
Mm.
well-made game.
Yeah,
I
but
just
you're not wrong. It's way more linear. Like, and obviously, there's just like the stories. It follows the story, right? So there's
mhm,
only one way to do things, and unlike System Shock 2, like it's like you said, linear. But it's just the way you describe the way you like have to like, yeah, you have your gun and you have like limited ammo and stuff like that. So
mhm.
mm,
And that
that was it.
if I would love to talk about like just how video game or good video games use ammo scarcity just to create a sense
Yes.
of tension too. Because that in and of itself is a great video game technique if it's used
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yes, 100%. I think. Well, I was gonna mention Dead Space, but no.
No,
You,
that's no, absolutely. Dead Space does utilize weapon scarcity pretty well
yeah, yeah, you're right.
because
I
it's
guess
like
the way I
it
played
does
it.
force you to play. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, the way I played it with just the plasma cutter or whatever, the very first gun, and I
Oh
was
my
able to get
God.
through it with just that. Um,
Oh, okay. I was from what
um,
I've seen of it, I've always got. Oh well, shows you what I
well,
know.
because you have to remember you can upgrade your weapons in that game. So
Hmm.
I just literally upgraded that gun like all the way. I ignored everything else, just upgraded that. And I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I played it. Again, remember Trophy Hunter. So I was trying to get the trophy where you play the entire campaign with just the first gun. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I'm pretty sure I beat it at least in normal. Um, but I could be wrong and maybe I was doing it on easy, but I remember doing it in a way where it wasn't too difficult. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe in the harder difficulties it was there's less ammo, but you know,
Mhm.
again, but like again, when it comes to like the scarcity, yeah, the original Resident Evil is what always comes to my mind when it comes to that, true survival horror. I've never played any of the Silent Hills, and I hear those are even more survival horror, and they stuck to that premise, unlike
Right.
Resident Evil where they went towards more actiony, which is fine. People like it, but going to that true survival horror like Silent Hills kept that style longer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree.
Mm.
It's just changing of genres.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. Again, like I was never interested in Resident Evil. I played
Mm.
I played through a good portion of the first one. I hadn't finished it, but
Okay.
I was taken back. I was
Mm-hmm.
barely like a quarter of the way through the game. I hadn't even killed like 6 zombies yet or whatever the fuck. And it left a lasting impression. Just
Okay.
the the silly corners,
Mm-hmm.
the slow movement of the zombies, the fact that like you have 6 shots at a time and like it takes 3 of them, 4 if you're not even good to
Yeah.
kill these things. Like that in itself is just silly because if you had a full thing of ammo, you could just run through the corner, 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 shoot, 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 and then you wouldn't have to worry about anything. But like
Yeah.
ammo, of the simplest of things, ammo scarcity, like manufactures that sense of dread and anticipation
Yeah.
in such an interesting way. Because it's like you're going down corridors and you're like, the first thing that comes to your mind is, do I have the ammunition for this?
Yeah.
And that I think is a good indicator.
Yeah. I can get behind that. Well, I'm glad
God,
you're enjoying System Shock 2.
thank you.
I'm
I'm looking
glad
forward to playing more of it.
I'm glad you're enjoying your laptop.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
I wanted to just quickly delve into the other game we're playing, Divinity 2. Quick thoughts.
Yes. I enjoy it. I've never played a D&D game where it's a game. No, jokes aside, I've
Yeah.
never played I've never played a game that does attempt to manufacture the D&D experience. Like again, I've played Skyrim, I've played Oblivion, I've played all the Bethesda stuff, I've played Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this one I feel like really tries to emulate D&D, I think in the most like straightforward of ways.
Yes.
Um, it's a top-down or an isometric uh, role play game. So you're
Yeah.
you're pretty much playing exactly how you would in D&D actually. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
hey, here's your character, here's what they're good at. Whenever you're doing like a check, here are the options. Like, oh, my character's like a what is it? Like serpent or dragon? Dragon prince.
Yeah.
And you use like, oh, here's dragon prince knowledge, or here's nobility knowledge. I like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it does kind of throw to the wind some of, I think, the novelty of playing it on your own, or not on your own, but on paper.
Yes.
Um, I think one of the things that I always like is kind of doing the math, right?
Yeah.
Like you're rolling because like when you're playing the game, eh, it's turn-based, kind of like of course, like D&D, but it also has some of those um elements of like what is it the Alien game, what is it, the
Uh.
fucking XCOM,
Okay.
where it's like it does the math for you, so you can shoot at it with a long ranged weapon or an enemy with a long ranged weapon,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll just hit. It doesn't
Right.
matter, but it does the percentage and whatnot for you. But I think some of the fun comes from kind of just one, seeing if you'll hit anything in the first place, which unlike in the game, you're
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily guaranteed. and then
Yeah.
kind of just hoping that you'll get like a good hit in there. Um, don't get me wrong, this is not a knock. I'm just, I guess I'm I'm going from like, oh, I really like this game to, oh man, I really like D&D.
Yeah.
But but this is fun. I would never play this with other people. Like I feel like playing it with other people takes away from a bit of the story because I feel a little rushed. I don't want to like I don't
Yeah.
want to uh I don't want to bog the story down because it's like I'm a quiet reader, I'm a slower reader. So like I'm flirting over here with butter and you guys are literally just standing there with your dick in your hands. And that's again not an insult in any way or a gripe, but I mean
Yeah.
like part of me like when we were playing, I really wanted to do the combat because the combat for me is the fun part. Like
Yes.
team-based real-time strategy.
Hmm.
That's the part that I really enjoy. Um, less so the role playing itself when I'm playing in a group of people that I'm not sitting in the same room.
True. True. True.
That being said, if there's some kind of like online thing, which we were talking about doing eventually, then that would be fun. But maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily in this game.
Yeah. 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 No. Agreed. Agreed. I think this will be just because the campaign's not super long, so we'll
Hmm.
probably go in, do the campaign, and then we'll move on to the next game, just so we can experience the game, right? Because
Right.
I agree. I love the combat of this. I grew up playing role playing games, so turn based is kind of what I'm all about. So when when Yvette showed me this game, I was like, dude, this is dope. This is like D&D, and he's like, yes. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
You don't even need to say anything. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree that the combat is very very fun.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's just turn-based like strategy combat.
Mhm.
But like I've never done this with other people. I've never done an
Yeah.
RTS like a video game RTS style combat with other people, and that's fun. That
Yes.
in and of itself is fun.
Yeah. I think next week, uh, like what Yvette really just wants to do, just you lead, as in it's just go around and talk to people. That's like, don't worry about us. We'll fucking we'll we'll keep having our dicks in our hands. Um, but yeah, you just go around, talk to people, get the story going. Like Yvette
Okay.
said, he'll just make sure we don't all die.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
I need to be carried like a little toddler.
Well, I'm the biggest crutch in the group right now because I mistakenly took the wrong perk. So yeah, I mean, you have
Yeah, you
dragon
done
breath,
fucked
dude.
up.
You're
Oh yeah,
fine.
I'm like, God, I need to stop that. I'm inadvertently killing everyone,
Well, well, as long as you're not like right next to us, you're fine.
which is what I was.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with that combat in that game is you kind of get thrown into it sometimes and you're not
Hmm.
100% sure what the hell's happening. So, um,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
no, but like I keep forgetting most of my attacks are AOE, so I'll just be like,
yes.
die, fucker, and then like both of you guys will accidentally get fucking lit on
Yeah,
fire.
we're like, oh wow, okay. Yeah, and then also knowing like poison ignites and all this other stuff, like or oil. It's like just it's things that you obviously slowly learn. And but I'll say this: very fun situations have happened because of you igniting things. A lot of good
Oh yeah,
laughs.
oh yeah. I can't wait till you fucking compile all the times I fuck up. Just like that bit that we did with fucking Event.
Yeah, it's gonna be perfect. Um, did you? So you know how I told you we're gonna be done with cinematography.
Oh god. What the fuck, Harry? Just when I think I'm out, they
Uh,
pull me back in.
all right. Well, it's a big topic. It's Loki season finale, episode 6, and yes, I said season, not series finale.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Yeah,
Yes,
because he's coming back for a season 2.
it is guaranteed minimum 2 seasons. Um,
Minimum.
minimum. Um,
Mimimim, Emily, sea
so
anemone.
so I guess it's okay to leave this towards the last because
Yeah.
it's probably the one that we're gonna be talking about very heavily into.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to do synopsis or should we just start talking about our feelings?
Yeah, let's do a synopsis and I'll pick your brain first.
Okay.
So the episode is primarily a decision. Uh, we're gonna follow mainly Loki and Sylvie. This is gonna be pretty quick, um, even though it was a 45-minute episode. Um, they have made it to this little area that falls outside of the flow of time. This mansion. Inside it is the one who remains. The one who remains was energetically played by Jonathan Majors, who played God Atticus in Lovecraft Country on HBO, which was actually pretty enjoyable. His performance was pretty good. Uh, I'm going off topic. He is essentially aware of the timeline up to a certain point. Um, Up to a certain Nexus event. He is stating the basic history of his existence, that he exists in the 31st century when he understood the multiverse theory, when he discovered the multiverse theory. Then went to war with himself, multiple versions of himself, created a multiversal war. At the end of it, he was the only one remaining and decided to prune or created the TVA to help maintain one timeline to prevent other versions of himself from coming along. He viewed himself essentially as a necessary dictator. He creates the TVA, finds a couple people who aren't where they should be, uh, indoctrinates them, and continues his work. Uh, he is pretty unhinged in this episode introduced. Uh, I get the impression that he is lonely and that he is excited to finally realize these machinations that he's been planning, but is more interested in just telling them to someone. Uh, he says he goes by several names, which implies that he's Kang. In the comics, I believe the one who remains was actually just a TVA agent who like survived a cataclysm, and he went back in time and became the runner of the TVA. I don't particularly know, but he essentially says, "I want out. You can either let me retire, basically, and take over, or you can kill me, and we can deal with another multiplanar war, multiplanar, uh, multiversal war where I still end up on top." And there we have our largest schism, which I was actually really pleased about. We have a moment where Loki decides, yeah, you know what? This authoritarian system kind of works. I would rather have the enemy that I know than the enemy I don't, which is kind of bullshit. But you know, it's his reasoning. And Sylvie's just like, no, I think that this guy is causing genuine harm to people, and we need to put an end to it. And that's where the schism begins. They fight. Sylvie throws him into the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvie kills the one who remains. The ending of this season finale is Loki going to Mobius and B15 and telling them everything he knows, only for Mobius and B15 to be like, "Who the fuck are you?" And
Dun
in the
dun
end,
dun.
we kind of get like a Planet of the Apes vibe where Loki the episode ends with Loki looking at this statue, not of the timekeepers that was in the main lobby area of the TVA, but of Kang the Conqueror. So I very poorly reduced that episode.
Well,
I
that's the
really
gist
enjoyed.
of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Harry. Let me get your thing.
All right. Well, um, how do I feel about stuff? All right. Overall, I give it a 10 out of 10 personally. Um,
Nice.
this is the first series out of the three that have been released that did not have like a disappointing ending. I guess
Okay.
to most people. Um, I'm sure there's people out there who thought it was bullshit, but
Dog shit. Yeah.
yeah. But this is one that I'm stoked. Not because there's a season 2 of Loki, but of the possibilities. And I'm fucking I say it every fucking time, right? X-Men. All right? Fucking
Yeah.
X-Men.
I
Okay?
thought of you. I thought of you the moment Sylvie killed the the uh the one who remains,
Yeah.
and the space around the mansion is like a giant fucking web of different timelines.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
looked over at my girlfriend. I was like, "Hey, babe, one of those timelines, X-Men."
Uh-huh. Oh,
And
I was gonna say cuz when I was first thinking about that situation, I was like, oh, there's no way it could be X-Men because the timeline branched from when he said he can't, like, he doesn't know what's going to happen after this, right? I was like, that's when the branches
that's the
started happening.
Nexus event. The Nexus
But
event
yeah,
essentially
exactly.
is like
I corrected
him not
myself.
knowing who is going to make the choice.
Yeah. And I
So,
corrected myself and said, that's not true because when Loki gets sent back in that timeline, you know, there is no timekeepers. So that
mhm,
means something previous from that moment changed and, stuff happened. So I'm like, okay,
mhm.
so then I was like, oh, and that's when I got extremely excited and been like, there's X-Men.
Yeah,
um,
Loki is in the universe with the X-Men.
yeah. So that aside, right? That aside, but we can talk about that some other time. The overall like vibe of the episode was really good. I liked the whole
Mhm.
tension. I think them having their blades out was a little silly, but then
Yeah.
well, how else would you? You know what I mean? How would you react, right? So I kind of get it. Especially
Mhm.
when they've been going through so much, and then finally you meet him, and he's very casual about things. And then I saw something on Twitter about like bad guys always eating a green apple, and
Yeah.
it's just funny. But it's like you know, um, it's just the way they went through the situation too, right? How Sylvie looked at things and the way and everything Loki said, which is fantastic, personally,
Mhm.
right? The whole like, hey, just wait a minute, like think about this, right? You know, like what if he's telling the truth? Like
Mhm.
and all he was asking is like, just wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like he's like, just let's talk about this, because like if he's lying, cool, right? We kill him, we're fine. But if he's not, like that's pretty fucked up. Like, and then the whole I lost my train of thought, but like my mind's running a million miles per hour because this episode is so good. Um when he says when he's talking about the like when they kind of like why don't we see eye to eye? He's saying because you can't trust anyone and no one can trust me. Like I was like, dude, that's deep. Like that.
Yeah, I
That was really good
yeah,
line.
at the end of the episode, I feel like the main point was the disappointment that two two people who want to trust each other can't.
Yeah.
And I think that main crux I really liked.
Yes, I agree. Um, I think the kiss was genuine, but I think Sylvie's just determination was just too much.
No, no,
I
I
really.
personally I don't think it was too much. I think, to be fair,
Mhm.
I think Sylvie's because I'm gonna have to watch this over again. I definitely need to give the series, I think, which I've already done, one enjoyment watch and then
Mhm.
one like analyze watch because I thought
Ah, okay,
Sylvie's
okay,
arc,
okay.
not arc, but her motivation was the same all the way around.
Yes.
She wants to fucking kill the people who ruined her life. And she had a couple like dips and bobs and weaves along the way, but she ultimately did what she wanted to do.
Mhm.
Uh, I think our Loki, I'm not entirely sure on. Could you hand me that, baby? Um, I'm not entirely sure on where they're going necessarily with him. Uh,
Yeah.
to be the guy who says you're meant to serve, yet becomes the guy who serves like this authoritarian like regime.
Mm.
I thought was a little odd. Again, I'm gonna have to try giving it the once over just to kind of get an idea of the development of the character.
Right.
But I did like that. I really did like that these two could not reconcile at the
Yeah.
end.
Like that's probably something that should have happened with Taskmaster and Black Widow. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. Um, but real quick, I want to talk about Jonathan Majors playing
Please.
before we say Kang, the one who came before, or the one who the dude left.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. I'm not entirely sure how the time mechanics work in this, but he just got off. Jonathan Majors just got off playing uh, Atticus in uh, Lovecraft Country, where he's this very sullen, downtrodden, very angry, uh, and put upon character. Rightfully so, of course, but it's interesting seeing him in this where he just chews the fucking scenery. Like if the scenery was celery, he would be not no. Um Jonathan Majors is essentially playing a character who has lived ages, like eons, and is still so excited with his machinations. And I think
Mm-hmm.
he loves the sound of his own voice, but I think at the moment
Mm-hmm.
he loves the fact that someone else is hearing his voice. Like I
Yes.
mentioned this before, he wants to tell his plan, but he's just glad someone else is listening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's a guy who just really wants to explain himself. Um, uh, and I don't mean that like, oh, it makes the exposition more interesting, or oh, it makes the choice he sets more interesting. I just enjoy the energy that the actor has in general. Like he's fucking jumping on desks and
Yeah.
fucking giggling and like I don't necessarily know if it was good or not. I just enjoyed the fact that like I just saw this guy play like what I was saying, like the downtrodden character, and now he's like literally,
Mm-hmm.
the slap happy evil Doctor Who. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see how that plays into because at the moment now we're having multiple Kangs. I want to see how that
Mm-hmm.
works because I tend to find time travel is very messy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the idea of introducing a time traveling like villain is a cool idea, but I've never particularly found time travel to be super compelling, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
because it's always done in weird ways. I think the only movie where I genuinely enjoy time travel is Looper, and that's just because
Oh.
you get like an older version of someone hanging out with a younger version of himself, and it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the time travel mechanics explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like the idea of like parallel universes, like the multiverse, which is what they're trying to do. Um, but like the idea of like thousands of years ago, there was a multiversal like war, and Kang, like, or the one who remains, went back, created like this environment to manage the flow of time, and has been existing for thousands of years. The way I see it is like 3000 goes back several thousands of years to like weed out the timelines and has been existing for thousands of years. Or just
Mm,
fucking no, not even that. He just creates this dimension at the edge of time and just sees all of time
mm,
and is just weeding shit out that way. And he's just grown tired of it. Like I just see it like that with the Eliath. Um but like that, see, that's the thing, is that's still confusing. And
yeah.
it I don't know if it's me not able to really rationalize some things, because I like the idea of like you go back in time, the moment you're in another timeline, you just created like another dimension, another
Right.
universe, a parallel universe where it's like
Yeah.
Star Trek did a great version of this.
Mm,
2009 Star Trek, where it's like uh a Romulan vessel armed with Borg technology goes back in time and just fucks shit up, and that causes like a split dimension. So there's the Kelvin verse, and then there's the Prime universe, and it's like, oh, I like that. So it's like you can have one dimension where this is happening and another dimension where this is also happening. But like the whole idea, like if you change things in the past, it'll affect the future, and like that's one of the things I didn't like with Tomorrow War, where it was like time was set. It's like I was thinking to myself, so if they have 7 days in the future, why not just like jump back 3 seconds after they just jumped in the future? Like, you see what I'm talking about? Where it's like
yeah.
it can get confusing, and there are people who care about this kind of continuity stuff, and I'm interested in seeing how they resolve it, because I feel like there are good ways that you can resolve dealing with a time traveling bad guy, and then there aren't. Because I don't see an idea where Kang can be beat in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck beats the time traveler who's been ahead of everything? And how do you not see that then if you're the time traveler?
Yeah.
He would
I
have to
guess.
literally win by a stroke of luck, unless, like, I get you have to invent new ways for him to fucking lose, but like,
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna, I was someone brought again Twitter saying like how come when Doctor Strange used the that Infinity Stone to look at all the possibilities of how to beat um oh god, what's the name again? Thanos.
Anus.
Yeah. Thanos, yeah. Why, like, well, I guess you can say because he was meant to do that, I guess.
You can also say that it's because the movie wasn't thought of yet.
Because
Yeah, it's not as fun. No, no, I get you.
I mean, they, what did he say? Like, oh, like everything was planned for you to be here.
Yeah.
So, Strange going through and finding out every single possibility that could happen. You know what I mean?
I mean, to be fair, he could know about Kang. Like,
This
I
is
mean, they could
true.
literally just write a thing where it was like, oh yeah, 300 or 30 or 6 million or whatever. However, half of these times I ran into some fucker with a purple cape and a blue face and a green tunic, and I was just like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, I'm Kang, ha ha ha. And then that was it.
Yeah,
Like
true.
that's all he has to say. Where it's like half the time I ran into this dude, I didn't think he was that much of an issue because like the amount of timelines I thought he was doing, but he's
Mm.
becoming more of a problem.
Mm. Okay.
Like that's
Yeah.
all you have to do, because I guarantee you, um, the uh, the two directors who did these movies did not even think of Kang at all.
Right.
I
Right. Right.
guarantee. I'm sure like one of the studio execs was like, "Oh yeah, let's put Kang in there, or let's think of him." But like, no, these
Yeah.
movies have like a vague idea of where they want to end up in like 10 years, but
Yeah.
not n- no. On a moment by moment thing, it's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Yeah, but it'd be even cooler if we saved it for later. Nah, let's do it now.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
yeah,
back
go ahead.
on topic with Loki. Yeah, I thought the performances were great. Um, Ravonna Renslayer, I enjoyed. Uh, I don't know what they're gonna do with her. She seemed like she wanted to destroy the TVA or find out what's
Mm,
going on with that, but
yeah.
now she seems like she's okay with like upholding the TVA. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm wondering if we're gonna get back to the original TVA, the TVA that we've known predominantly.
Yeah.
There isn't much really I think needs to be commented on. I mean, I think the performances are great. I thought the not happy ending where the guy gets the girl, or the generic kind of like semi-tragic but sincere ending was a thing. I like that they kind of left it on a bit of a cliffhanger with a little bit more. They resolved a bunch of the stuff that's going on, but left your room for what comes next.
Yeah. Sorry, I just bit into what was that?
Food?
It's a but what is the spread?
Wait, what?
Olive tapenade? Tapenade?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know. We have these like bagel cracker crisp thingies. And Livy got some and put some paste called olive tapenade. And
Hmm.
God, it was really, really strong. Uh,
Is it made of tapenade?
um, I don't know. Tapenade.
Tapenade.
Yeah.
Tapenade.
Sorry, I just God. I still it's like salty and yeah, I can see people liking it, but I don't think it's my jam.
I love it. I love salt.
But yeah, I'm glad they ended the way it is. I'm,
Mhm.
we all know that people are upset about things and whatnot. I'm just hoping X-Men, fucking the whole thing with like Spider-Man, with like older Spider-Mans being a part of it, Doctor
Mhm.
Octagon, and then and apparently uh what's the guy's name? The new
Electro.
no the doctor no but Karn not Karn, what's his name?
Kang.
Kang. Um
Jesus fucking Karn.
he's
Oh, you mean cool guy?
um
Hi, how you doing?
Kano.
Ain't no wins.
um
That's a fucking beauty.
but Kang is gonna be in the new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie.
Yep. And not the one who remains. Like actual
So
I like to fuck with time Kang.
yeah. So
Have a good mess of time.
I'm I'm excited. I'm curious how what's happening with Loki is gonna affect the Doctor Strange. Like we had
Hmm.
a night, like once we knew that there was like a timeline thing with Loki, we thought, oh, this has to lead up to Doctor Strange, right? But it seems like it's more than that.
Oh yeah.
It's setting up the rest of the fucking like next 4 years or something. Like
Oh yeah.
and I'm stoked. Like I was telling the people that I watched it with, um, like the thing with the previous two series, we knew what the outcome was going to be, right? WandaVision,
Hmm.
Scarlet Witch, Falcon and Winter Soldier. We knew Sam was going to become Captain America.
Yeah.
This one we had no idea.
Yeah, they definitely buried the lead a bit with how they were gonna do this. I honestly thought,
Mm-hmm.
given how self-contained the other ones were. That this is
Mhm.
going to be like, oh, this is a quirky season of the year kind of thing.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I thought it was gonna be a cool way to just like give Loki a good last hurrah. I'm kind of bummed that they didn't, but at the same time, like it was such a good series or season that
And
like
seeing what they do with him for the
yeah,
first time, I think.
yeah. So I'm excited for the next season. I'm not too upset that Loki's still alive. Um, I think yeah, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do. But I love the way they're setting up what's after. It's
Oh yeah, me
it's
too.
it's they use the series because there was no outcome, right? No one knew. It wasn't self-contained. It was just like there's a season with Loki. Oh, okay, like that's cool. I guess people like Loki. Yeah, sure, why not?
We fucking
It's
love Loki.
it's the lead. It's like the opening to like the fucking future of what this arc is gonna be, and it's like holy shit. Like, not every how do you say? Not every movie needs to have Kang, but somehow it's gonna lead to him, right? Like Doctor
Yeah.
Strange, like he doesn't have to be in there, but Strange
Well, see,
figuring out.
apparently Loki is going to be in the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I'm excited. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. I would have thought maybe it was like a. So he's in the credits, but they said he's gonna be starring in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My
He's going
first
to get
assumption would
some kind of bit.
okay. My first assumption would have been automatically like a flashback or something, but
Yeah,
it
that,
makes
that, that
it
might
makes
be
sense now.
a
Makes sense now.
Glamio.
Yeah. Um. But yeah. Okay. That's cool. But again, Kang doesn't have to be in every single or every single
Right.
episode, every single movie, right? He doesn't have to be involved in what's the next one? The next Spider-Man movie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be part of that. It's cool that Doctor Strange is going to be in it. It's already pretty much
I
confirmed.
think, yeah, the multiverse, like fucking with stuff, is just something that they can explore, like in general, in a couple of
Hmm.
movies.
Yeah,
I'm still that they're doing a Spider-Man movie where it is the multiverse. Uh, but I mean, eh, I guess they've built something up toward it, so it's not
yeah,
just Spider-Man fucking with multiple dimensions out of nowhere.
yeah.
Um, but still, I'm not like the most jazzed about them
Well,
doing.
what's that one? The animated one, the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, like I think that's. I mean, did I haven't seen it, but I heard it did very well and people really loved it. Like, I
It
don't see
the
why they
thing is,
couldn't. Yeah.
yeah, the thing is, oh, my 2 cents for that is like Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse was just the idea of doing that. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
put like a bunch of Spider-Man together. Let's do Miles Morales. And let's do all that. It wasn't attached to anything. It had no
Mm,
prior expectations to fit into. What
right.
bothered me was is that Loki hadn't come out yet,
Mm,
and there were already word that out of fucking nowhere, Spider-Man, not Fantastic Four, not Doctor Strange, not possibly like some Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing, was gonna do something with like multiple dimensions. And I was
do
like,
you
that makes no fucking sense.
do
And
you
that
think that is the fault of Sony, or like because it's not under the Marvel thing, it's still technically under Sony, that maybe things leaked and
I
they're
I
the way they promoted things, maybe they fucked it up.
I'm really not sure. Like
That's like my first
my
thought process.
yeah, no, I get you. My first instinct is that like I don't even think Tobey Maguire is going to be in it. I don't even think Andrew Garfield's going to be
I
in it
think they
personally. I don't
confirmed
know.
that they're not in it.
Right, that's the thing. I don't know. But they keep wanting to do like this multiverse thing that I'm getting an impression from. But like I don't know, man. Like like I was saying like I felt like it was unplanned.
Mhm.
And I mean, like, I get like now, like, oh, they have the multiverse thing going on, and we got till December, like, of like a couple more things to hype you up for like a multiverse style gabagool. But but it just felt out of place, and I didn't know like what was
Mm.
going on with that.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like, if they want to do something where like Peter Parker's like doing something with a younger Miles Morales or vice versa, I that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, up until Loki, I was like the idea of Peter Parker doing the multiverse stuff I thought was really like out of pocket.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I just like I said with Into the Spider-Verse, it had no prior obligation or it didn't have like a tone or a frame of reference that it had to like step into.
Mhm.
But I thought Spider-Man kind of did. And I'm hoping that the whole multiverse thing doesn't overshadow like the concept of like a 17 or a 16 or 17-year-old
Yeah.
being outed as a superhero, which is something that you don't have in this universe. The concept of like the secret identity never really mattered until now to
Mm.
to Spider-Man. So, well, I mean, it has in the comics, it has in the other movies, but I mean, like, and it does in this movie. But like to every other fucking person, it's like, oh hey, I am Iron Man. Oh, fucking Bucky's the Winter Soldier. Oh, fucking these people fucking walk around with their names interchangeably.
Yeah.
But I just hope that that doesn't get thrown out. I really do. Or don't
Mm.
hope that
Right.
that. I really hope that that does not get thrown out because I think that's the more important story and what
Mm.
he does when he's kind of at rope's end or at his
Yeah.
wit's end.
Do you? So wait. So in the newer Spider-Mans, who's the love interest again?
MJ.
Okay. So I know
Yeah.
there's MJ, and then there's what's the other person?
It'll be oh
Gwen. Gwen.
yeah, Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn Stacy. Gwen Stacy.
Gwen. I was just thinking like if it was a different person, if I don't know, again, me conspiracy theory thinking like what if they set it up so they knew they were gonna do a multiverse thing and like all the like Spider-Man had like different love interests.
Mm.
But yeah, no, never mind.
In
I
in
stand
my
corrected.
mind personally, I think it's gonna happen how everyone in the comic says it's gonna happen where it's like Spider-Man's gonna go to Strange, and Strange is gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I can fix this," and he fixes it, and he fixes it so well that MJ forgets about him.
Oh,
Yeah,
got him.
got him.
Fair enough.
That'd be interesting. That would actually, I don't know. Other than people dying, they don't really know how to like make people do interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Like, forget about the whole get the girl in the end. Like, there really
Yeah.
isn't much different. Like, they don't know how to handle like moral ambiguity
Mm-hmm.
uh, really well either. Like, it's just these people are anti-heroes or they're so blood-curdlingly evil that like of course they're evil or they're just, Steve Rogers with a different like coat of paint.
Right.
So, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I can get behind that. Um, anything else? Loki related?
My
We're gonna
back
chat
itches.
about. Oh, okay. You can scratch it.
I can't reach it.
Oh,
I'm
fuck.
either too fat or my arms are too big. Oh, the struggle. No, I'm kidding. I'm good. Um, what was the last bit that you want to talk about, bud?
Topic wise or of Loki?
Yeah. Or did you want to save anything for next week?
Um, I think I want to save this for next week. Because we can really
Get
get
into it.
into the yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of things
Okay.
I can chat about when it comes to this. So, let's save it for next week, just because well, no more Loki. We don't really other than the Dune thing, we might not have a lot of topics to talk about. So I
I'm
would
sure
love
we
to
can
save this
find
for next week.
something.
Oh, I'm sure too, but this is like A good one.
Yeah, this is a thing.
This is a
This is a
thing.
thingy thing.
And who's ever listening, you have to wait till next week.
Yeah, fuck you. You need our dicks. Anywho, folks, if you're interested in contacting us, you can hit us up on hittingthemark2020@gmail.com. Tell us how awful we are. Tell us how great we are. Tell us how much you want to just suck us off. If you want to watch our videos, masturbation material, ASMR joys, if you will, you can check us out on YouTube with Hitting the Mark and Harry and Mark. There's a lot of furry-based imagery, courtesy of Harry, on the fronts of our videos. He changed them, sadly. Not as much fur affinity stuff, but still good. And then if you want to follow all the slanderous bullshit that we say online, because we do it every day, you can hit us up on Twitter. Capital H, capital T, capital M _podcast. Again, HTM _podcast. Ooh, that was perfect. That was good. That was clean. I had like a devil may care attitude to it. That was so fucking good. God damn it. I should go into radio. Anywho, folks, we have fun every time we get online. We just like talking and making you listen to us. Yeah. But anyway, folks, we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Bye-bye.
Auf Wiedersehen, assholes.